Good day, my name is Tania Sarmiento. This work is about materials in English language teaching. What type of materials should be included in English language teaching? TV programs to watch, textbooks, and mini projects. You can't do telestories, express an opinion, discourse, challenge classroom tasks, and practice and produce. Voices on CD, sample of used language, newspaper, read a poem aloud, and vocabulary activities. Principles of second language acquisition. Materials should achieve impact. The materials have to be attractive to the learner's curiosity, interest, and attention. You can reach the impact in your students if the materials are a novelty, variety, and has an attractive presentation. Appealing content, achievable challenge. It's important to know the student and what is possible target of them. Material Materials should help learners to develop confidence. When the teachers engage the learners with different simulating, problematic and achievable tasks, the instructor will reach to develop their extralinguistic skills, imagination, creative, analytical thinking. For instance, they can develop confidence with telling and speaking activities about simple stories and poems. What is being taught should be perceived by learners as relevant and useful. A personal significance to the learner is to write love letters or write a letter of complaint about villager and headmen. The learners perceive relevance and useful, do interesting challenge classroom tasks and make decisions about strategies, but after the teacher refers to them books and pages for achieving their project task. Materials should require and facilitate self-investment. It's important to keep in mind the role of the classroom and the teaching materials because it will be and it will facilitate self-discovery. Teachers should give them interest in writing and spoken activities and reach globally and effectively answers in order to make discoveries for themselves. Learners must be ready to acquire the points being taught. The learner has the readiness to increase speed and frequency of rule application in a wide range of linguistic contexts. The materials play an important role in this principle, which creates situations requiring the use of variational features and which learner gains sufficient knowledge before teach a new one. Materials should expose the learners to language in authentic use. It depends on the teacher's activities. It should be spoken and writing, and they can simulate exposure to authentic, comprehensible input. In an authentic use, there are communicative purposes, exposure to authentic input, advice instruction for learners' activities, and spoken writing text. Students can suggest activities like interviewing the teacher, doing a project, listen to the radio, among others. Comprehensible, rich and varied input should vary in style, mode, medium, and purpose. Mentally and physically response. The learner's attention should be drawn to linguistic features of the input. The attention paid to the language can be either acquisition, conscious, or subconscious. Learners can be receiving relevant input feature with grammar and they can reach their proficiency. It's recommended that the learners make comparisons about the use of specific features of English between a native speaker conversation is a indirect speech and learners and build coursebook materials. Materials should provide the learners with opportunities to use the target language to achieve communicative purposes. There are two ways to use the target language in where the teachers help the learners to automatize their existing procedural knowledge and to develop strategic competence. Communicative interaction is an opportunity for getting a new input and for picking language up. Materials should take into account that the positive effects of instruction are usually delayed. Teachers shouldn't expect learners to be able to see textbooks straight away. Textbook approach of presentation practice production is durable learning if the production phase is a reinforcement. Recycle instruction and to provide frequent and ample exposure to the instructed language feature in communicative use. Learners couldn't be forced into premature production. Materials should take into account that learners differ in learning styles. The activities should be variable and ideally for all learning styles. Studio learning gain grammar teaching in an advantageous way. Experimental learning gains a reading story with a grammatical predominant feature. Visual or writing, auditory, listening, kinesthetic, physical response and games, analytic, focus on one by one, global, all kind of language, dependent, learn from a teacher, independent, learn from a book, and autonomous strategies. Materials should take into account that learners differ in affective attitudes. Exist different attitudes according to the materials. For instance, diversify language instruction according to the variety of cognitive styles, providing choices of different text, activities, discourses, attitudes, and feelings culturally sensitive. Materials should permit a silent period at the beginning of instruction. When learners obtain a few times to be confident in understanding it, the silent period can facilitate the development of an effective internalized grammar. Teachers can start with total physical response method, listening comprehension and mimics. It means all kind of comprehension but production. Materials should maximize learning potential by encouraging intellectual, aesthetic, and emotional involvement, which stimulates both right and left brain. It's necessary to do cognitive activities linked to analytical, creative, evaluative, and rehearsal because the learning would be deeper and durable by that way learners will work with previous experiences and their brains. It's recommended to use the Suggestopedia method because the learner can receive information that will be processed in a right and left brain. Materials should not rely too much on controlled practice. It's better when learners practice in a spontaneous way and the controlled practice be less, and it should aim to the accuracy. Materials should provide opportunities for outcome feedback activities. The focus is the learner's effectiveness. If the student learns and his/her language became in a powerful and informative source of information was a good job, but if the student doesn't receive instruction and cannot communicate with his or her partners, it's necessary the use of feedback and is more likely correct gain and good outcome.